So I really have just one question for you. How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even investigating?
First, you showed it. I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're going to answer the
theatrics are
question the
ridiculous.
way I asked it.
Chairman Jordan, I'm not going to get in the gutter with these people, but I'm going to answer the question.
How many have you indicted?
Again, the time belongs to
Reclaiming my time.
the time belongs.
I think it's very interesting.
Reclaiming my time.
I think it's very
Reclaiming my
interesting.
time.
You can
that
reclaim
he
your
talks
time,
about
but
they
reclaiming my time,
indicted.
Mr.
The
Chairman.
president said they
Close the
indicted
clock.
him
Mr.
twice.
Chairman, please
They
stop the
sure
clock
did.
and stop the
he
clock and
indicted.
restore his time.
Okay, here we go with these
Committee will be in order.
theatrics.
Imagine you were a survivor. You went through something so horrific that federal law was written specifically for you to protect your identity. Congress debated it, lawmakers voted on it, the president signed it. Your name, your face, your phone number, your home address, legally sealed, legally protected. Because what happened to you was monstrous, and the least a civilized government could do was make sure that the monsters and the monsters' friends could never find you again. Now imagine waking up one morning and discovering that the Department of Justice, your Department of Justice, the one your tax dollars fund, the one that exists to protect people exactly like you, published your name anyway, your phone number, your address, out in the open for anyone to find. That's not a hypothetical. That happened. It happened under this administration, and when a member of Congress asked the Attorney General of the United States to account for it, to explain it, to justify it, to express even the most minimal acknowledgement that survivors of child sex trafficking deserve better than having their identities blown by the very government that promised to protect them, Pam Bondi pivoted to talking about how great Donald Trump is. That's where we are. That's what this hearing revealed, and that's what this video is about. Because what happened in that room wasn't politics. It wasn't partisan noise. It was the documented, time-stamped, publicly broadcast collapse of accountability in the most powerful law enforcement institution on Earth. Buckle in. This one matters. Before we get into the specific catastrophe of Pam Bondi's performance, and I use the word performance deliberately, we need to establish something that cable news consistently fails to connect. The dysfunction you witnessed in that hearing room is not contained to Washington. It has consequences, real, material, globally significant consequences. Here's why. The Department of Justice isn't just the place where white-collar criminals get prosecuted. It's the institutional backbone of America's credibility on the world stage. When foreign governments, adversarial governments, governments that are actively probing for weaknesses in the American system, watch a congressional oversight hearing in which the Attorney General refuses to confirm whether a senior White House official accepted a bribe, they are not watching political theater. They are watching a stress test, and they are taking notes. When a career counterterrorism prosecutor, a man who spent his professional life tracking networks that want to blow up American infrastructure, writes a letter warning that the removal of experienced DOJ officials is actively degrading America's ability to counter foreign adversaries, that is not a partisan statement. That is a national security assessment from someone who has the receipts. Senator Schiff submitted that letter into the congressional record. Michael Ben-Ari's words are now part of the official documentation of this moment in American history. He stated plainly that gutting the FBI and DOJ of career professionals, people who know where the threats are, who the actors are, what the vulnerabilities look like, doesn't just compromise domestic justice, it compromises the entire apparatus that keeps external threats from becoming catastrophes. And here's the quid pro quo geometry that nobody in the mainstream coverage is drawing clearly enough. If you fire the prosecutors who make powerful people uncomfortable, if you shut down investigations into your own officials, close cases involving your allies, and replace career professionals with political loyalists, you don't just protect your friends from accountability. You create a permission structure. You signal to every foreign adversary, every domestic criminal enterprise, every bad actor watching from the outside that the gate is no longer guarded by people who care about the gate. You're not just corrupting justice, you're selling the vulnerability, whether you mean to or not. That is the geopolitical stakes of what looked like a messy congressional hearing.
Cover evidence
that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. These two photos, please put the photos back up. These two photos staring you in the face are evidence of a crime and more than enough evidence to predicate an investigation against former Prince Andrew. So I ask you, Attorney General Pam Bondi, why did you shut down this investigation last July, and why have you not prosecuted former Prince Andrew?
I don't believe you asked Merrick Garland these questions when he was Attorney General and set before.
I agree with you.
You twice.
I'm reclaiming my time. I agree with you. I agree with you. During the Biden administration, I called for people looking at Epstein files. Merrick Garland dropped the ball, as did Attorney General Bill Barr, as did Alex Acosta, a whole string of failures. But you are in charge. You have the power to change things, to hold these men accountable, and you're doing the opposite.
That is why this matters beyond the Beltway. January 2025, Pam Bondi sits before the Senate for her confirmation hearing. The stakes are understood by everyone in the room. The DOJ is walking into one of the most politically charged environments in modern American history. The country is watching. Career prosecutors are watching. The world is watching. And Bondi makes a promise. She commits, clearly, on the record, under oath, that she will not politicize the Department of Justice, that she understands the institutional importance of keeping federal law enforcement above and apart from political pressure, that she gets it. She gets it. 9 months later, she is sitting before a Congressional Oversight Committee, the first such hearing of her tenure 9 months in, and she is using her time to tell Senator Schiff that Caroline Leavitt is one of the most trustworthy people she knows. 9 months from solemn oath to that.
The FBI under your leadership or that of your predecessor before you confirmed quietly shut it down. Once news broke, your deputy and FBI director issued a joint public statement confirming that the Trump administration closed the investigation. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt denied Homan took the $50,000, telling a reporter, quote, "Mr. Homan never took the $50,000 that you're referring to, so you should get your facts straight." So today I hope you can help us get our facts straight. Was that true, what the White House Press Secretary said when she denied Homan took the money? Did he take the money?
Senator Schiff, as I stated earlier, I was not in office. I was not confirmed when that was handled.
So does that mean
Deputy Attorney General Blanche and Director Patel said that there was no evidence that Tom Homan committed a crime. Yet now you're putting his picture up to slander him.
No, I'm putting his picture up showing an interview he gave with, I think, Fox, in which he was asked explicitly about these allegations that he took a $50,000 bribe, and he refused to answer. He said he didn't answer the question whether he took the money, so I'm asking you the question, did he take the money?
Senator Schiff, I answered that question multiple times, and frankly,
Well, I don't think, with respect, I don't think you did, but in case I just didn't hear you, what is the answer? Did he take the money?
Senator Schiff, that happened prior to my confirmation as Attorney General. I said that.
Do you know, sitting here, whether he took the money?
All I know is that Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche and FBI Director Patel said there was no case. And Caroline Leavitt is one of the most trustworthy human beings I know.
So
and,
was she?
Senator Schiff,
was she
if
right?
you worked for me, you would have been fired because you were censured by Congress.
Let's be precise about what happened in that room, because precision matters when you're talking about the collapse of institutional integrity. The senators and representatives who questioned Bondi were not, with a few theatrical exceptions, asking gotcha questions. They were asking oversight questions. Foundational, basic. This is literally why we have this hearing questions. They were asking, did a White House official take a bribe? Did you consult ethics lawyers before approving a foreign gift to the president? Did career prosecutors find the evidence on James Comey insufficient, or was the indictment politically directed? These aren't trick questions. These aren't traps. These are the questions that a functioning democracy requires its top law enforcement officer to answer. These are the questions the founders built the oversight system to ask. and she answered 0 of them.
So these are just some of the questions you refused to answer, or have answered with personal attacks on members of this committee. You were asked whether you consulted with career ethics lawyers, as you promised you would do during your nomination hearing, when you approved the president receiving a $400 million gift from the Qataris. You refused to answer that question. You were asked who or what role you may have played, or who played the role in asking that Trump's name be flagged in any of the Epstein documents gathered by the FBI. You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether Homan kept the $50,000 bribe money. You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether Homan paid taxes on the $50,000 bribe money. You refused to answer that question. You were asked, did career prosecutors find insufficient evidence to charge James Comey? You refused to answer that question. You were asked, how are military strikes on these boats in the Caribbean legal? And you refused to even answer that question.
You were asked, a law degree,
excuse me. You were asked, did you discuss indicting James Comey with the president? You refused to answer that question. You were asked, did you approve the firing of antitrust lawyers who disagreed with the Hewlett-Packard merger? You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether you support a restoration fund for violent insurrections to attack the Capitol on January 6th. You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether you were firing career professionals, career prosecutors, just because they worked on January 6th investigations. You refused to answer that question. You were asked by my California colleague whether you believe government officials, like immigration officials, have to abide by court orders.
0. Instead, she accused questioners of having Trump derangement syndrome. She pivoted to Hunter Biden. She noted that she wasn't confirmed yet when some of the events in question occurred, as though the Attorney General's accountability for the Department of Justice begins at the exact timestamp of her swearing in and extends backward not 1 second further. She asked Senator Schiff whether he would apologize to Donald Trump. She told him to his face in a congressional hearing that if he had worked for her, she would have fired him. The Attorney General of the United States told a sitting U.S. Senator that he would have been fired in an oversight hearing about whether her department is being weaponized. The irony is so thick you could charge admission. And now, friends, we pivot. Because one of the most effective tools in the MAGA political toolkit, one that I think doesn't get analyzed with sufficient seriousness, is the weaponization of chaos, the deliberate manufacture of so much noise, so much outrage, so many simultaneous controversies that the audience, you, me, everyone, becomes exhausted and starts treating the whole thing as entertainment. So let's lean into that. Let's play the game. Let's examine some of the deflections that Pam Bondi and her Republican colleagues deployed in that hearing room and appreciate them for the absurdist performance art they represent. First deflection, the greatest president in American history. This phrase was deployed unprompted mid-sentence in response to a question about Epstein's victims as a rhetorical shield. The logic, such as it is, runs something like this. If Donald Trump is the greatest president in American history, then questions about his associations with a convicted sex trafficker are by definition ridiculous and can be dismissed without engagement. It's a fascinating piece of circular reasoning. The premise protects itself from examination. You can't question the greatest president in American history because questioning him would imply he's not the greatest president, which is obviously absurd because he is the greatest president. Therefore, no questions. This is not governance. This is a loyalty oath dressed in a suit. Second deflection, you have Trump derangement syndrome. This one is a classic because it does something genuinely clever. It pathologizes concern. If you are worried about documented evidence of potential corruption, the problem is not the potential corruption, the problem is your psychological relationship to Donald Trump. You're not a citizen exercising oversight rights, you're a patient who needs to calm down. The clinical elegance of this move is that it requires no evidence. Any level of concern, however proportionate, however evidence-based, can be diagnosed as derangement. It's the political equivalent of telling a smoke detector it has fire derangement syndrome. Third deflection, my personal favorite. When pressed on whether she would support releasing the alleged audio or video recording of Tom Homan accepting $50,000 in cash, a direct yes or no question, Bondi responded by asking Senator Schiff whether he would apologize to Donald Trump. I want to sit with that for a moment. Will you support releasing evidence of a potential bribe? Will you apologize to Donald Trump? These two questions are not in the same universe. They are not even in adjacent universes. One is about congressional oversight of a potential federal crime. The other is about feelings, presidential feelings, specifically whether a senator has sufficiently validated a president's emotional needs. If you tried to submit this exchange as a scene in a political drama, your script editor would reject it as too unbelievable. And yet, there it is, in the congressional record, forever. In the spirit of the MAGA tradition of rewarding loyalty over competence, I'd like to take a moment to present some unofficial awards from today's hearing. The Most Creative Interpretation of Accountability Award goes to Pam Bondi for her innovative approach to the concept of answering questions, which she has demonstrated is actually a form of aggressive interrogation that she is not obligated to participate in. The Best Use of a Dead Man as a Shield Award goes to the entire Republican side of the committee for their tireless invocation of Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, and anyone else from a previous administration whenever an inconvenient present tense question arose. Truly, the past has never worked harder to protect the present. The Best Use of a Dead Man as a Shield Award goes to the entire Republican side of the committee for their tireless invocation of Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, and anyone else from a previous administration whenever an inconvenient present tense question arose. Truly, the past has never worked harder to protect the present. The Best Use of a Dead Man as a Shield Award goes to the entire Republican side of the committee for their tireless invocation of Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, and anyone else from a previous administration whenever an inconvenient present tense question arose. Truly, the past has never worked harder to protect the present. The Best Use of a Dead Man as a Shield Award goes to the entire Republican side of the committee for their tireless invocation of Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, and anyone else from a previous administration whenever an inconvenient present tense question arose. Truly, the past has never worked harder to protect the present. The Best Use of a Dead Man as a Shield Award goes to the entire Republican side of the committee for their tireless invocation of Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, and anyone else from a previous administration whenever an inconvenient present tense question arose. Truly, the past has never worked harder to protect the present. The Best Use of a Dead Man as a Shield Award goes to the entire Republican side of the committee for their tireless invocation of Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, and anyone else from a previous administration whenever an inconvenient present tense question arose. Truly, the past has never worked harder to protect the present. The Best Use of a Dead Man as a Shield Award goes to the entire Republican side of the committee for their tireless invocation of Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, and anyone else from a previous administration whenever an inconvenient present tense question arose. Truly, the past has never worked harder to protect the present. The Best Use of a Dead Man as a Shield Award goes to the entire Republican side of the committee for their tireless invocation of Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, and anyone else from a previous administration whenever an inconvenient present tense question arose. Truly, the past has never worked harder to protect the present. The Best Use of a Dead Man as a Shield Award goes to the entire Republican side of the committee for their tireless invocation of Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, and anyone else from a previous administration whenever an inconvenient present tense question arose. Truly, the past has never worked harder to protect the present. The Best Use of a Dead Man as a Shield Award goes to the entire Republican side of the committee for their tireless invocation of Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, and anyone else from a previous administration whenever an inconvenient present tense question arose. Truly, the past has never worked harder to protect the present. The Best Use of a Dead Man as a Shield Award goes to the entire Republican side of the committee for their tireless invocation of Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, and anyone else from a previous administration whenever an inconvenient present tense question arose. Truly, the past has never worked harder to protect the present. The best use of a dead man as a shield award goes to the entire Republican side of the committee for their tireless invocation of Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, and anyone else from a previous administration whenever an inconvenient present tense question arose. Truly, the past has never worked harder to protect the present. The best use of a dead man as a shield award goes to the entire Republican side of the committee for their tireless invocation of Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, and anyone else from a previous administration whenever an inconvenient present tense question arose. Truly, the past has never worked harder to protect the present. The best use of a dead man as a shield award goes to the entire Republican side of the committee for their tireless invocation of Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, and anyone else from a previous administration whenever an inconvenient present tense question arose. Truly, the past has never worked harder to protect the present. The best use of a dead man as a shield award goes to the entire Republican side of the committee for their tireless invocation of Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, and anyone else from a previous administration whenever an inconvenient present tense question arose. Truly, the past has never worked harder to protect the present. The best use of a dead man as a shield award goes to the entire Republican side of the committee for their tireless invocation of Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, and anyone else from a previous administration whenever an inconvenient present tense question arose. Truly, the past has never worked harder to protect the present. The best use of a dead man as a shield award goes to the entire Republican side of the committee for their tireless invocation of Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, and anyone else from a previous administration whenever an inconvenient present tense question arose. Truly, the past has never worked harder to protect the present. The best use of a dead man as a shield award goes to the entire Republican side of the committee for their tireless invocation of Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, and anyone else from a previous administration whenever an inconvenient present tense question arose. Truly, the past has never worked harder to protect the present. The best use of a dead man as a shield award goes to the entire Republican side of the committee for their tireless invocation of Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, and anyone else from a previous administration whenever an inconvenient present tense question arose. Truly, the past has never worked harder to protect the present. The best use of a dead man as a shield award goes to the entire Republican side of the committee for their tireless invocation of Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, and
about
Are the riots in LA serious?
About the cover-up of corruption, about the prosecution of the president's enemies. And
I think you owe the president an apology.
When will it be
Your entire career,
that the
frankly.
members of this committee on a bipartisan basis demand answers to those questions and refuse to accept
Clearly you're a failed lawyer
refuse to
because you don't
accept,
understand when
excuse
someone
me,
can and cannot
refuse
answer
to
a
accept
question.
personal slander as an answer to those questions.
Personal slander.
With
Will
that,
you
Madam
apologize
Chair,
to Donald
I yield
Trump
back.
for slandering him? Personal slander.
Senator.
May I ask unanimous consent, Madam Chair, to introduce into the record the statement of 1,000 former Justice Department officials who warned that the Comey indictment is a democracy-threatening abuse of power. May I also request unanimous consent for the introduction to the record of 282 former career officials at the Justice Department raising an alarm who were voluntarily or involuntarily forced to leave the department because of improper actions taken by the Department of Justice. May I introduce with unanimous consent the Justice Department manual that talks about when initiating and declining charges are subject to impermissible considerations. And finally, Madam Chair, may I introduce the letter from Michael Ben-Ari, a career counterterrorism prosecutor, DOJ, a letter he nailed to his door, which concludes by urging officials to do the right thing for the right reasons, to follow the facts and the law, and raises the alarm that the decision to remove experienced career officials from U.S. attorneys' offices, the FBI, and critical parts of DOJ undermines our country's abilities to counter terrorist organizations, malign nation-state actors, and countless others that seek to harm our nation and its citizens. And he believes that the priority is prosecuting the
still
president's
arguing,
enemies
or are you admitting
rather
that?
than
Bondi,
protecting
Ms.
the
Bondi, one
country.
moment.
May I have unanimous
Are you,
consent
are
to
you
enter
entering
these
that
into the record?
without objection?
Thank you. I yield back.
Senator Brett.
Senator Moody, may I?
Drop a comment telling me what's the one question you would have asked Pam Bondi if you had 5 minutes and a microphone. Because I genuinely believe the questions we ask reveal what we actually value. And right now, the questions that matter most are the ones going unanswered in rooms designed specifically to answer them. The gavel comes down. The hearing ends. The accountability gap widens. And somewhere, 15 questions sit in the congressional record, waiting.